Hi guys, welcome back to another episode on my YouTube channel. I am Hillary Mulick, a wedding photographer based in North Carolina, and I love using this channel to educate other photographers on how to best streamline their businesses. And on today's episode, I'm going to be talking about questions that you need to be adding to your pre-wedding questionnaire. Now, if you don't know what a pre-wedding questionnaire is, this is the questionnaire that you send to your couple a few months before the wedding. I think I send my questionnaire to my couples about 4 months before their wedding to gather information about their timeline, about their photography, so that you can put together a final timeline, know what details are important to them, and then have a phone call with them before the wedding to go over everything, making sure everyone's on the same page. Now, in this questionnaire, you probably have a lot of really useful general questions that you have to ask your couples about, what time their ceremony is going to start and what events they're going to be having at their reception, or whether they're doing the sparkler exit or not. These are all important questions that you have to be asking your couples. But today I want to be talking about, I think I have 7 questions, which is kind of a weird number. I feel like people usually do like my top 5 tips or 10 things that you can do. Well, I came up with 7. So I have 7 questions that you might want to think about adding to your pre-wedding questionnaire that you send your couples before their wedding day. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, with these 7 questions, they're not the most important questions or information that you can be gathering from your clients. I assume that you're already gathering the important stuff, but these questions are things that I've just found really helpful to just help me get a better understanding, and so that I run into less problems throughout the wedding day. So the very first thing is, obviously you probably asked your couples whether they want to do a first look together, but I also asked my couples if they want to do a first look with any members of their family. So I think it's really popular for brides to do first looks with their dad, or if they have a grandmother that's there, they might want to do a first look with them. I have a lot of people who want to do first looks with all of their bridesmaids, or I had one bride a couple years ago, she wanted to do a first look with her 3 brothers. And what I found that was happening when I wasn't asking them this question in their pre-wedding questionnaire is I would plan the whole wedding day, because I'm very type A when it comes to planning and organizing the timeline so that we have time for everything, and I never feel rushed on a wedding day. But what I found that was happening is, I would be in the getting ready suite, generally with the bride, and, photographing her details, where I'm about to go tell her that, I want to start getting her ready, and I'm, staying on time for things. And then she tells me, oh, actually, can we do a first look with my dad right after I get my wedding dress on? Or can we actually do a first look with all the bridesmaids? And those things take time. Like, doing first looks, you have to set people up and make sure they're not seeing each other. And, it may take 5 or 10 minutes to do these things. And, once they're having their first look, I don't know how long they're going to need a moment together. I've had some people who, do these first looks with their family members, and they're crying, and they need some time to connect with this family member and to hug them and to have that moment. And I don't want to be cutting them off because we're running short on time, and I didn't plan for this thing to happen. They just told me about it on the wedding day. So I think it would be wise to maybe add this question in to your pre-wedding questionnaire. Ask them if they want to do any first looks with any other family members, maybe besides the person that they're going to marry. And along these same lines, making sure that you save time for things is also ask them if they're going to do a letter exchange. Because a lot of times on wedding days, I wouldn't know that there was a letter that was being exchanged, and I would find out about it last minute, and it either wasn't captured because they did it ahead of time and they didn't think, well, maybe I might want a photo of this, or I might want the video team to be capturing this. Or, they would tell me about it last minute, and I'd say, oh, let's go and, do your portraits with your bridesmaids, or do your portraits with your groomsmen. And they're like, oh, wait, I actually have a letter that I need to read from the person I'm going to marry. And that can take like 5 or 10 minutes. And on a wedding day, every minute counts. So if you can ask them these questions ahead of time, and plan for those things in the timeline, you'll be good to go. Third question you need to be asking your couples in your pre-wedding questionnaire, and this honestly is an important question, and I think a lot of people don't ask it in their questionnaires. So it may be common to ask in the questionnaire what family photos they want taken at their wedding, but you also need to ask them if there are any split family situations or awkward or uncomfortable family dynamics that you need to know about ahead of time. Because if the parents are separated or divorced or they're not getting along with one another, you don't want to be in the situation where you're putting them in photos next to each other and they're upset about it. And it just causes tension because you're the only one in the room that doesn't know about this awkward thing or about this divorce or this weird family dynamic. So make sure you ask your couples in your pre-wedding questionnaire, are there any split family situations I need to be aware of for the family photos? And are there any uncomfortable situations or awkward situations that I also need to be aware of? I had a client many years ago who they were inviting people to the wedding that were family members, but they had recently, like right before the wedding, had a falling out of some sort, and those people were still coming to the wedding, but they just wanted me to be aware of it, that they didn't want to like be put next to these people and be put in an awkward situation. So anyways, long story short, make sure you're aware of these things. And if they say there's a split family situation or there's an awkward or uncomfortable family dynamic that you need to be aware of, when it comes to family pictures, make sure you say, okay, well, since there is a split family situation, let's make sure that we're putting names for all the family groupings that we want. And we're being really specific about it so that, you know, I'm not in a situation where I'm, missing someone in the family photo and you don't realize it because you're caught up in the hype of your wedding day. And then later you get your family photos back and you think, oh, bummer, I got this photo with my dad, but I didn't end up getting this similar grouping with my mom. So make sure you tell your couples to be specific and include names for family groupings in those split family situations. The next thing I like to ask in my pre-wedding questionnaires that I think is kind of a fun question is I ask, what are you most excited about us as the photographers capturing on your wedding day? And I provide a checklist of all the different events of the wedding day. So getting ready, family photos, couples portraits, wedding party photos, ceremony, I think it says ceremony reactions and emotions, cocktail hour candids, reception details. Like it just lists a bunch of things that I normally get on a wedding day, but I want to know what their top 3 priorities are, what their top 3 the top 3 things that they're most excited about on the wedding day. And then I add in parentheses, I'm going to capture all these things, but I want to know what their priorities are. And what I do with that information is I put little stars on the timeline next to those things that are their top priorities. So if it comes down to a situation where we are just really crunched on time, I want to make sure that I'm making their priorities my priorities. So if their priorities are bride and groom portraits and reception details and something else, I want to make sure that, whatever else is happening on the wedding day, I can maybe cut my time with the wedding portraits or the wedding party portraits a little bit more and maybe not give them as much variety of that. I'm still capturing it, but maybe not giving them as much variety because their main priority was their bride and groom portraits, and I really want to make sure we have enough time for that. So asking this question doesn't mean that you're not going to capture something for them. It just gives you a little bit more information and peace of mind that if something unforeseen happens and there ends up being a time crunch, you can prioritize the things that are priorities for them so that they are getting their wedding gallery back and they're seeing the things that they want to be seeing. And if you had to, cut time on reception details, that maybe that wasn't as much of a priority for them because they didn't list that as something that was the most exciting thing for them. So you don't have to feel guilt or bad about something that you may not have had as much time to spend time on the wedding day. The next question that I like to ask in my pre-wedding questionnaire is not so much as a question, but it's a section of information, and it's information about all the vendors that they have hired and that they are going to be working with on their wedding day. And I asked them for the name and the website of each of these vendors. I used to ask for name and Instagram handle, but I just found that, you know, sometimes they didn't know the Instagram handle, or they'd like misspell it or something, because some people's Instagram handles are different or like slightly modified based on what's available when they are making their Instagram handle. So it may not match their website or their actual business name. So anyways, to cut confusion and avoid tagging the wrong business in future, you know, blog posts or Instagram posts or what have you, I always ask them for the vendor's name and the vendor's website, because 99% of the time on their website, it will have a link to their Instagram. It'll have a link to their email so that I can send them photos. It'll have the links that I need if they just provide me with the website. So make sure you're gathering all the vendor information so that you know who you're working with on the wedding day, you know who the planner is, and you can reach out to them, you know who the videographers are, so you can reach out to them and, you know, let them know you want to be working as a team on the wedding day and you don't step on each other's toes. And it also gives you the information of the people that you want to be sending photos to after the wedding day, because this is free marketing. If you take the time to send the wedding gallery to all of these vendors, they're going to use those photos on their Instagram platforms and on their social media platforms, and they're going to tag you in it. And that is free marketing to you. They're marketing you and your business to their audiences. So make sure you take the time to gather this vendor information. The next thing that I feel is super important, I actually recently made an Instagram reel on this. I'll link it in the description below, but I think it's really important to remind them in your pre-wedding questionnaire that it is in your contract that they have to feed you on the wedding day. So I actually have in my pre-wedding questionnaire, it says, please confirm with a yes that both photographers will receive a hot meal at your reception. Please talk to your wedding coordinator and or caterer about our meals and the importance of us being fed. And then I also have another section that says, do you need our food preferences for dinner? If so, let me know the options below. And then I also have a little blurb explaining the importance of them feeding us earlier in the reception versus later in the reception to avoid problems of, you know, when you get fed after all the guests at the very end, generally the events are starting to kick back up again because the guests are done eating, and so they want to start with the dancing and the cake cutting and all the things that us as photographers have to be available for, but the caterers just barely served us our food. So either we take one bite and we rush to the dance floor to do all these events, and we didn't get the proper break, we didn't get a proper meal, we're starving and hungry and our energy is depleting. So anyways, I have a lot to say on this, but I think it's really important to include it in your pre-wedding questionnaire so that they actually have to confirm that they are feeding you and that they have talked to their wedding coordinator, they've talked to their caterer about this. And then I bring it up again when I'm on the phone with them later, when we're talking about their questionnaire and their timeline. I confirm it again and I say, hey, you know, in the pre-wedding questionnaire, you said that you were feeding us. Just wanted to make sure that you were. I bring up the importance of when we should be fed, and then also if they need our food preferences for it. So I think this is a really important thing that will avoid, most cases, it'll avoid awkwardness on the wedding day at the reception of, you know, everyone else being fed and you're like twiddling your thumbs, wondering where your food is and when you're going to be fed, and, you know, if the couple even provided a meal for you, and you just shouldn't have to be worrying about that. So just talk to your couple about it ahead of time. Include it in your pre-wedding questionnaire. Talk to the caterer or talk to your wedding coordinator about it. Tell your couple to talk to the caterer about it. More times than not, sometimes not, because we can't control everybody else, but more times than not, everything works out and us as the photographers were fed, we have the proper break, all because I brought up this question and this conversation in advance before the wedding day. All right, so the very last thing that you can add to your pre-wedding questionnaire, it's not really a question, but it's more just a way to format your pre-wedding questionnaire to make it a little bit easier for your couple, is So I use HoneyBook as my client management system. This is also the system that I use to send out all my questionnaires and proposals and all sorts of things to my client. I love it. To my clients, I love it. But when possible, rather than having your clients fill in the blank about things, provide a checklist. So I have multiple places in my pre-wedding questionnaire where there's a checklist where they can go and check things off rather than having to do a short answer fill in. So some of these areas are family photos. In the family photo section, I actually have a checklist of traditional family photos that I normally get on a wedding day, and they can go through and check these. So it'll say bride and groom with bride's mom and dad and siblings, bride and groom with bride's mom and dad, bride and groom with bride's siblings, bride and groom with mom and dad. I think I already said that. Bride with mom, bride with dad. Like, it just lists like all the traditional stuff that they can go through and check which ones that they want. And then there's also a short answer below where it says, if I've missed anything, if there's anyone else that, you know, you really want to make sure you get family photos with, fill it in down here. But I think when possible, if you can provide a checklist rather than a fill in the blank option, just makes things a little bit smoother, a lot easier when your clients are filling out your pre-wedding questionnaire. Another section that I provide a checklist rather than a fill in the blank option on my pre-wedding questionnaire is reception events that they have going on. So the checklist will include first dance, special dance with the bride, special dance with the groom. So these are usually parent dances. Cake cutting, if they're doing a garter toss or a bouquet toss, or maid of honor speech, best man speech. I just have multiple reception events that are very traditional that a lot of people have at their receptions that they can go through and check which ones they're doing. Then again, there's also a fill in the blank option at the bottom where it says if there's any other reception events that you want me to be aware of. So for example, I've had some people, they have like a surprise groom cake that's coming out that they'll fill that in as a reception event that they want to make sure is photographed, so I can be sure to photograph the groom's reaction. Some couples, if they have religious traditions that they want to do, they will let me know so that I can make sure to photograph those at the reception. Or if they have specific dances like the anniversary dance or the money dance, or just anything else that is not necessarily considered a traditional event that happens at a reception, they can fill that in down below. So to reiterate, if there are parts in your pre-wedding questionnaire where you can give your clients a checkbox option rather than a fill in the blank, where they can go through and just check what they want, leave unchecked what they don't want. That just makes it a lot easier for them as they are filling out your pre-wedding questionnaire. All right, those are all the questions that I think you should consider adding to your pre-wedding questionnaire. It certainly helped give me just additional information, making sure that I'm not missing anything, leaves less room for error when it comes to the timeline on the wedding day, so that I don't feel stressed and everything just feels really streamlined and I know exactly what to expect and when to expect it. So I hope this was helpful to you. Let me know if you have any questions Let me know if you have any questions down below. I don't know what I'm saying. This was a long video, I'm sorry. But I will see you again next week for another YouTube video. Bye guys.